Today I'm going to be showing you how to brew the Zumachi Decaf on pour over the exact same way that you would be getting it in a De Mello cafe. The Zumachi Decaf is one of my favorite coffees, decaf or non-decaf, and that is saying something. Decaf coffees are generally known as quite boring, quite bland, and this is anything but that. It is a sugarcane decaf process, and it has these beautiful notes of brown sugar and raspberry, and I always try to have a bag of this on hand so that I can always enjoy a coffee even if it's later in the evening. This is truly one of my favorite coffees. Our recipe for this coffee involves first starting with water at 94 degrees Celsius. This isn't exceptionally high, this isn't exceptionally low, pretty straight up the middle there. However, something that is a little bit off normal is that we're going to be using a quite short brewing ratio of 1 to 11.5. So look at this chart up here, kind of select your dose and yield based on what size of a coffee you want to be enjoying. For myself, I'm going to be using 16 grams, and that means taking 184 grams of water and adding it during this recipe. So let's start off by doing that. Let's weigh our beans. Now, in terms of a grind setting, you're going to want to go a little bit finer than normal because for this short ratio, we're still looking for a brew time in and around 1 minute and 55 seconds. So in order to draw that out with such a short brew ratio, you're going to want to go a little bit finer. So let's grind up our coffee. Once we have that ground, the next thing that we're going to do is simply add it to our pre-wet and pre-warmed brewer. And once we've got that in there, we're going to start with a 50 gram and 30 second bloom. So let's get that going right now. Start our timer and start our bloom. We'll give it a little bit of a swirl, make sure all those grounds get nice and wet. Again, that bloom lets all the gases escape, helps us have a more even and a little bit sweeter extraction. Now, this is a quite quick brew at 1 minute and 55 seconds, but remember that brew ratio is also quite short. So there's our 30-second bloom, and then we're going to add in our next 100 grams of water. And we're going to give it a quick swirl just to make sure we get a nice flat bed. We get all those grounds off the sides of the brewer, and that nice flat bed, just like any brewing method, make sure that we get a nice even extraction. Now, we don't need to wait too long before adding the rest of our water because this is such a short brew ratio. Like I said, I'm going up to 184 grams. There we go. And then we'll just let that draw down. So like I said, our total brew time that we're aiming for is around 1 minute and 55 seconds. Once again, brew to your personal preferences. If you're looking for a little bit more extraction, you can extend this brew ratio or maybe up the water temperature a little bit. Or if you want a little bit less, you're finding it a little bit too bitter for your personal preferences, you can even shorten this ratio, or I would probably recommend lowering the water temperature a little. So it really is up to you. This recipe is our starting point, but a 1 to 11.5 ratio, around 1 minute and 55 seconds, 94 degree water. So we can see this is wrapping up here. We're at 155 right about now. We're still dripping, so this ran a little bit slow. That's okay. So we'll take our brewer off, and the only thing left to do is to then pour this into a cup of your choice. And enjoy. So that is how you brew the Zumachi Decaf, just like we would in the cafe in your home. Enjoy.